is Alvin Queen. I'm originally from New York. I was born in the Bronx, Lincoln Hospital on 41st Street. And I was brought up in Mount Vernon, New York. Now, my mother's side of the family, they're originally from Virginia, and I believe they were, her mother was like ex-slaves at that time. I'm the baby of the family. I have an older brother who, in elementary school, he began to pick up sticks and he was playing marching parade music. Most of the time, during that time, I was a little kid. All the little kids in the neighborhood would have shoe shine boxes. For a black kid in the neighborhood at the time, was an honest way really to get some money and to without creating a problem for yourself, you know. And you wanted to, what we used to do, we used to go to the supermarket and we would help the old ladies and people there. As time went on, there was a guy who had just came home, I believe it was, from the end of the Korean War. His name was Andy Lalino. He opened up a drum school up there. And at that time, we were very poor, and my parents really couldn't afford lessons at that time. My mother had 5 kids she had to support. And I looked up one Christmas, I never forget it. Me and my mother went shopping, and I looked up at this window, and I saw this kid in the window playing drums. And I said, wow. That's beautiful, but how can I get up there if I don't have any money? So what I did was use my shoe shine gimmick to get up there to see what was going on. And when I went up there, I saw this young guy at the time, Andy Lalino, you know, and I said, sir, do you want to shine? He says, no, I don't want to shine. He says, do you play the drums? I said, I play school drums. I would like to really learn this drums here like that. He says, well, okay, son, what you do is take my telephone number and tell your mother to call me. And Andy had said to my mother, said, look, Miss Queen, the boy is nice. He's staying out of trouble. I'll keep him with me. I'll teach him. I'll supply him with the drums. And when he gets old enough, one day he can pay me back. Samuel Arnold had a drum show at Roseland, and Elvin Jones was the guest artist at that. And I walked up to Elvin, and Andy introduced me to Elvin and said, Elvin, take a picture with him. And Elvin remembered me from back there. I was maybe about 9, 10 years old at this time. So then when Elvin was at Birdland, I went there, and Elvin, even Ed Thigpen, walked up to me, and Elvin said, get away, that's my son, get away. And Elvin said, the boy has got to learn, the boy has got to learn. Elvin picked me up, put a chair under the drums, and put a Coca-Cola in front of me, right? And put me at the table with his wife. And I sat there at the table with his wife, and I don't know what it was, but Elvin said, the kid has got to learn to play. And got up one song from the drums and put me up there with John Coltrane, Jimmy Garrison, and Corey Tyner. And I remember John Coltrane turned around. I was imitating Elvin, all the sounds. And John Coltrane turned around and said, Elvin, the kid, man, the kid, get the kid like that. And this was like one of the biggest events of my life. Everybody has some form of rhythm, but that rhythm has to be developed. The matter of developing it, that's the bottom line with that. Many years ago, I was a kid, like a little shoeshine kid, poor kid, and I used to see people such as Cozy Cole, Gene Krupa, and at that time, Jonah Jones Band and Papa Joe Jones. They had a big thing then. At that time, there was no real modern swing at that time, I call it, but you would hear things like... Okay, then you would have to do that years ago. If you couldn't swing, you couldn't work. That's how it was all judged. If there was no swing, you could forget about playing, right? Things modernized. I began to go around Birdland and see different things such as Art Blakey, and my father used to take me to the Apollo Theater, and you would see different show bands up there. And then I began to get modern, so I fell in love with the way Art Blakey played a lot of times, but it was a bebop era also at that time. And a lot of guys would play bebop. Monk, at that time, Kenny Clark was in Europe, right? But the bebop was more like... That's where most of the bebop came from. As time went on, things began to change in the music of jazz. And what we had at that time, a lot of times, then we had Elvin Jones, who played a lot of polyrhythms at that time, which be... Tony Williams also changed the music around by playing a lot of stuff with Miles. He was free to go because Ron Carter had to tempo most of the time with B. Meanwhile, Max Roach was doing different tempos, far as polyrhythms, but different time meters, such as 3/4. As time changed, you find a lot of combinations, but taking you back a little bit, you know, you had the church music, you had the shuffles you had to play in church, you had 6/8 backbeat blues. A lot of this you heard with James Brown, a lot of this you heard with different people, which was slow blues. You had rock and roll when that developed, that came through, which was... The drum went through so many different changes, where then you saw them try to combine African rhythms with the American ensembles, which Art Blakey was responsible, Randy Weston, Alatunji, drums of Patchen. Many different people tried different things. And came into that club, and he said, "My name is Charles Tolliver, and I heard you with Horace Silver's group." So I said, "Yeah." He says, "I would like to ask you a question." So I said, "What is that?" "Would you go to Europe with me?" So I said, "Go to Europe, man?" I said, I go to... As a black American musician, you were highly respected and represented wealthy. It was easy to work. It was easy to get through. There was a boom. We would go from Paris. We would go up to Amsterdam. So I came to Europe in 1977, and I met my wife at that time, and I hung around Geneva.
Ladies and gentlemen, very often, Lalo, how about a hand? Very often we like to spring some brand new things on the audiences and on ourselves, because that's what jazz is all about. Giving vent to your feelings, establishing a state of abandon, and just doing it. And by doing so, we find that you like that, you know? So we're gonna try even harder to do that. Now, nobody has ever heard tell of Alvin Queen singing, right? Nobody ever heard tell of Alvin Queen singing, right? He's one of the greatest percussionists in the world. But just watch it. He and I are gonna sing some fours on this next chord. Watch it. You ain't never heard nothing like this before. Wait till you hear this. Oh, this is gonna be fantastic. Yeah, Queen! She ain't on the man's phone, spending on scandal weight. She ain't on the give on the storm, on the week. Skip she come on down for sleep train. She pip, big it low to the week. And She blew bleep, she blew bleep, she blew bleep, she blew beedly boop. Bop, bop, dip. Go down. She people that live in down way. She people that know best. Shit, bop, dee. Shit, shat, baby. Shit, my shop, my shit. Go down. I be high. You go high. Alvin Queen made his debut singing right here at the New. Don't forget that. When you hear Alvin Queen song, sing at the New, baby. Well.
Oh, Clark, man, Clark is my idol. You know, I love. Pierre Boussaguet, he's like a brother, he's like a friend, he's a part of me, excellent musician, fantastic person, and I adore him, you know. So it's a musician who deserves much more recognition than what he is getting. Ray Brown, he's another idol. Farmer is another, has always been another idol of mine. And Al Foster, these are times I used to go down there and dig him, but he's a wonderful, wonderful musician, an excellent person. Randy Brecker, he's another one. When I first went in Horace Silver's band, Randy Brecker was in there. I remember Randy Brecker's first record. It was on Solid State, produced by Duke Pearson. He was doing the record dates in New York in the section bands with Luther Back and Marvin Stan. And Randy really goes back far. Randy was in that band with Horace Silver in 1969. But I highly respect him also for the work he has achieved through the years. Well, Ray Barretto is a very faithful. Boy is leaping for the biggest notes and trying to do it, but he's trying to do it in a well-mannered way, but disciplined. You know, a lot of people. That's good for you, see? You feel good. Health-wise, it's good for you. When you're playing music, you got different sections to play. This is bass drum, hi-hat, cymbals, everything. You need the energy for a clear mind to produce. And this is a place where I get all my peace. When I come off the road, one day in the bed, sleep, and back here. That's to keep the body in shape. Productive, as what we said earlier, for the music, which I got to give in the future. It's the future now, what it's all about. So if I'm in a good state of health, then I can produce good music.
Hey, baby. How you doing? What's happening? Hooray! Je forge your name!
You know what this is? This is a car. When you get in the car, you get in, you stick the key in, and you step on the accelerator. You know why you do that? Because the car moves. And you know one thing? If the car doesn't move, you can't get where you're going. So if you don't get where you're going, you blew your gig, man. Living on the road is, you gotta learn how to do that. Man, the garbage you go through every day to survive, to play 2 hours worth of music is like a hell. You understand? But you learn how to deal with that the best. You gotta know how to make wrong turn right. If you don't, it will mess you up emotionally during your to get back in the van or head for the airport and go to the next town. That's what on the road is all about. My favorite album, which brought me to Europe, was Charles Tolliver live at the Utrecht Festival. Also, Charles Tolliver done 1972 live at the Domicile in Munich. I got a couple of other favorite albums. One of my favorite was the trio of Mr. Kenny Drew, you know, and we did live at the Keystone Corner in Tokyo, Kenny Drew album. Then the next favorite album, which I particularly like, was the Wild Bill Davis, Guy Lafitte, you know, 3 Men on a Beat, which is a great album. And I had my own record company at that time, which was a Nilva record company. And the best album, one of the best albums I had there was also entitled Ashanti, which sold a lot of copies. And then the next album after that was A Day in Holland, Alvin Queen and Dusko Gojovic. Another album, which was on Nilva Records label, which I produced, also my album, was the album Alvin Queen Gliding and Striding with Junior Mance, Martin Rivera. Another one. Sham, which is a very special album to me because, unfortunately, it was one of Guy's last recording. Guy was ill at that time, and we weren't sure if Guy was going to be able to make this. Guy came in the studio, and I hold him and grabbed him, and he says, I want to play, I want my horn. And he had this little script, a poem, because Pierre had composed the music, and he wasn't sure if it was good enough or whatever it was. He went in the studio, and I'll never forget that, and he started to say this poem. And I don't know, but spiritually, coming from churches and all of that, I felt something happening, and that was the passing of Guy Lafitte. It was something I was able to share with someone who I knew loved me so dearly, you know.
C'est une note non jouée, mais toujours espérée, recherchée, mendiée. Celle d'un saxophone qui prend dans la matière du bois et du métal tout ce qu'il faut pour vivre à fond et pour aimer.
My principle of being a drummer is to escort the artist. You understand? With the drive, but it can't sell with the drum solo. The drum solo don't sell the record. It's the drive what sells it. This is what makes people pat their feet and want to buy the record. Well, music brought to me the understanding of life, the reality, and what it was, and to begin to look at the whole world as a whole. Music pulled me out of something, and it got me to understand that we're all human beings. I grew up in the ghetto of New York. Certain areas where I live, you couldn't go across the train track. That's how racist that was. But the happiest moments of my life were those moments. You know, we had a Christmas. We might have had 2 or 3 gifts to share with 5 kids in the family. But man, it was unity in the neighborhood. And it was the most happiest time of my life. I can say that. We were poor, we didn't have much, but what we had, we learned to share that. And that's one thing which I enjoyed that part of my life. That's where the music came from.
you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.